There is a loud and chaotic noise that defines the modern financial world. It is a noise made of flashing screens, frantic predictions, breathless news anchors, and a constant, desperate urge to act. Most people believe that to become wealthy, they must somehow learn to decode this noise. They believe they must move faster, guess better, and take wilder risks than the person next to them. But if you were to travel to a quiet office in Omaha, Nebraska, you would find a man who has accumulated one of the greatest fortunes in human history, not by participating in this frenzy, but by completely ignoring it. Warren Buffett operates by a set of rules. There are roughly 25 of these guiding principles woven so deeply into his life that they do not just dictate how buy stocks, they dictate how he lives. And the most remarkable thing about these rules is that they are entirely available to anyone, yet almost everyone chooses to ignore them because they require something far more difficult than intelligence. They require absolute emotional discipline. The foundation of this entire philosophy rests on two rules that sound like a joke until you realize how deadly serious they are. The first rule is never lose. Funny. The second rule is never forget rule number one. This is not about avoiding the natural fluctuations of the market. It is a profound mandate about risk. Most people focus entirely on how much they can make. Buffett focuses entirely on how much he could permanently lose. He understands that a loss of 50% requires a gain of 100% just to get back to where you started. This leads directly to a third rule, which is the cornerstone of his psychological advantage. You must be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy only when others are fearful. When the market is euphoric and everyone is getting rich on whatever new trend is sweeping the globe, ordinary people feel desperate fear of missing out. They buy at the peak. When the market crashes and blood is in the streets, they panic and sell at the bottom. To follow Buffett is to stand completely alone, willingly walking into the dark when everyone else is running for the light, and quietly stepping away from the table when the party is at its loudest. This requires an understanding of a fourth rule. Price is what you pay, value is what you get. Most people look at a stock chart and think the price is the reality. Buffett looks at the business. He does not care what the stock market says the business is worth on a Tuesday in November. He cares about how much cash the business will produce over the next 20 years. If the value is higher than the price, he buys. If not, he waits. And waiting brings us to the fifth rule. Inactivity strikes most people as a failure to act, but for Buffett, inactivity is an intelligent behavior. He treats investing like a game of baseball where there are no called strikes. You can stand at the plate and watch thousands of pitches fly by, businesses you do not understand, prices that are too high, trends that are too speculative. You do not have to swing. You only swing when a fat pitch comes right over the middle of the plate. And when that pitch comes, which is rule number 6, you must swing heavily. When Buffett finds an opportunity that meets his strict criteria, he does not put a tiny percentage of his net worth into it. He buys aggressively. He knows that truly great opportunities are incredibly rare, and it is a mistake to timidly dip your toe into the water when you should be diving in. But to have the capital ready for those rare moments, you must live by a set of rules regarding how you treat your own money. Rule 7 is to live far below your means. Despite his immense wealth, Buffett has lived in the same modest house in Omaha that he bought in 1958. He drives normal cars, eats simple food. He ignores rule number 8, which traps almost everyone else: the urge to upgrade your lifestyle the moment your income increases. Most people view wealth as a license to spend. Buffett views wealth as a tool to generate more wealth. This means adhering strictly to rule 9, avoiding the trap of borrowed money. Credit cards, personal loans, high interest debt, these are the forces of reverse compounding. They destroy futures silently and ruthlessly. If you are paying 18% interest on a balance, there is no investment in the world that can reliably save you. When it comes to deciding what to buy, Buffett is guided by a 10th rule that keeps him out of trouble. Stay within your circle of competence. You do not need to understand every business. You do not need to understand software and biotechnology and emerging markets and foreign currencies to do well. You only need to understand a few things deeply and absolutely refuse to step outside of that circle. If a business is too complex, Rule 11 dictates that you simply walk away. This is why he avoids derivatives and complex financial instruments, which he famously called financial weapons of mass destruction in Rule 12. If you cannot explain how a business makes money to a 10-year-old, you have no business owning it. Instead, Rule 13 tells us to buy wonderful businesses at fair prices, rather than fair businesses at wonderful prices. A cheap business with terrible management and shrinking margins is a trap. A great business, one with an unbreachable competitive moat, loyal customers, and quiet pricing power, will compound your wealth for decades. And when you find such a business, Rule 14 states that your ideal holding period is forever. Most people treat the stock market like a casino, trading in and out, trying to catch a quick profit, paying taxes and fees along the way. Buffett buys a business with the intention of never selling it, allowing the management to work for him, allowing the profits to quietly reinvest and compound. He ignores the daily market fluctuations, which brings us to Rule 15. Do not watch the market closely. If you own a farm, you do not check its price every day. You check the crop. To survive this long game, you need cash. Rule 16 is to always maintain a massive fortress of cash. Most investors hate cash because it earns very little and sits idle. But Buffett views cash as the ultimate call option on the future. When a panic inevitably strikes, when the market crashes and wonderful businesses go on sale for pennies on the dollar, cash is the only thing that allows you to act. Without it, you are at the mercy of the storm. This requires Rule 17, acknowledging the reality of inflation. Money sitting still loses its purchasing power, so your investments must clear the hurdle of inflation simply to break even in real terms. You must invest in businesses that require very little capital to grow and can raise their prices to match inflation. The final group of rules has very little to do with spreadsheets and everything to do with character. Rule 18 is to read constantly. Buffett spends up to 80% of his day reading. Knowledge compounds exactly like money. It builds up over time, layer by layer, until your mental models of the world are so robust that you can see things others cannot. But you must think for yourself. Rule 19 is to operate by an inner scorecard. Most people worry about what the world thinks of them, an outer scorecard. They want the flashy car to look successful. They buy trendy stocks so they have something to brag about at dinner parties. Buffett does not care if the world calls him out of touch or foolish, as long as he knows his reasoning is sound. Rule 20 is to surround yourself with people who are better than you. You will naturally drift toward the behaviors of the people you associate with. If you associate with patient, rational, high-character individuals, you will become more like them, and no association matters more than Rule 21. Marry the right person. Buffett has stated repeatedly that the most important financial decision of your life is not a stock pick, it is who you choose to partner with in life. A supportive spouse who shares your values regarding money, patience, and lifestyle is the greatest asset you can possess. Rule 22 is to protect your reputation above all else. It takes 20 years to build a reputation and 5 minutes to ruin it. If you think about that you will do things differently, there is no amount of money worth compromising your integrity. Rule 23 reminds us to understand the difference between a temporary setback and a permanent loss of capital. Markets will fall, economies will enter recessions. Those are temporary setbacks. Permanent loss happens when you use too much debt or buy fundamentally flawed businesses or panic and sell at the bottom. Rule 24 is to understand that time is the friend of the wonderful, company and the enemy of the mediocre. If you have done your work correctly, time is all you need. You do not need to rush. You do not need to force the issue. And finally, Rule 25 is the ultimate measure of success. When you reach the end of your life, the amount of money in your bank account is irrelevant. Buffett measures success by looking at the people he wants to have love him and seeing how many of them actually do. That is the ultimate test of a life well lived. Money is simply a byproduct of doing the rational things consistently over a very long period. It is a quiet, steady, uninterrupted march. And while the rest of the world screams and trades and worries, predicts, the people who follow these rules simply plant their seeds live quietly and allow time to do the heavy lifting.